try to show that there is a need for it out there. There are people who are already within the community putting products out. You just may not know about them yet.
I was just informed by the Gator who is on the stream here, Daisy Gator, that my
Hmm.
mic was muted on the stream. Well, thank you. I'm such a professional that uh, and Joe, see, just in time, her voice works to mock me. Um,
That's what I'm here for.
okay, well,
That's
great,
perfect.
great that you're here, Joe. And Savannah is still working on her voice, so let us know when that's happening. And we have Luca with his whole bunch of friends. Mr. Fister, the Hurt God, Skylar Muse, Kuashi, Boo Boo, Yusa Moth. Now, I just wanted to ask Mrs. Suida, do you want to chime in? You don't have to, but if you want to tell your story, how you arrived at your second life embodiment with your body, because I think it's a wonderful story. It took you some time. You made yourself look like you were in real life, then you were modifying it, and you kind of went back and forth. We're talking about a whole bunch of different things here, but since we're on the subject of how do we represent different cultures, Mrs. Suida has the flu, so she
Oh
won't be.
no, I hope you feel better.
Yes, lady.
Everybody's getting the
Pandemic.
flu.
So Bria, but elaborate a little bit more then on representation. Now, since we're on the subject still, the
Hmm.
representation, and there was recently a lot of discussion about that there is actually a fair amount of r- racism, well, just racial stereotyping, and just sort of in Second Life where people have reported that
Hmm.
their African
I
American or African embodiment was kind of ridiculed and bullied to some
hmm
extent.
I've been subjected to that myself.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually one of the incidents that kind of led to me wanting to go on this journey to creating this museum. Is that there is racism doesn't just exist offline. It definitely is something that we run into here. Like I've had people call me all sort of obscene things if I didn't cater to their advances, and it's just it still exists here, and I think people
And those
feel
were
a little bit
specific.
more.
Those were racialized insults. Mm.
Yes, yes, they were definitely racialized insults. I cannot repeat them because they were pretty bad,
Yeah.
but
No, we don't have to.
um yeah, no, it definitely exists, and just as much as offline, except I think that sometimes people just feel a bit more empowered here.
It's that disinhibition effect that is well studied. That people really
Hmm.
feel they can just be that 12-year-old
Well,
again.
yeah.
Joe,
They think they're anonymous, but they're also just badly brought up by their parents.
there you go.
Hmm.
You would have slapped them left and right. Yeah.
I
Right.
do, and I have, and I will, and I do it in real life as
I know.
well.
Yeah,
And I
authoritarianism is definitely
enjoy,
the answer to everything, Joe. I know. I mean,
it is
that's
for
clear.
me, yeah. And I enjoy people who are being rude. I enjoy, making this into an insult towards their parents for being bad parents, and they don't like
Hmm.
that. So I do it more often.
The world needs more of that.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not talking about authoritarian upbringing because I would push against that. I just unfriended a second lifer on Facebook who said that we need to show respect to Donald Trump because he's the commander in chief, and if I would have done to my dad what some people say about Trump, he would have like locked me in the basement for a week. And so
Oh boy.
yeah, so
Well, I was given officially an anti-authoritarian upbringing. I went
yes,
to an anti-authoritarian group,
by
a
a bunch of
school
hippies, yeah,
even,
and that.
by a bunch of hippies, peaceful, what you call them, hippies and pacifists and all that. And look how I turned out.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite.
I know. I remember there was a. We're totally getting off a tangent here. We're going to look at the. We'll go to the museum, but since you mentioned, I remember there was a TV movie in Germany once about hippie parents and their son turned out to be a neo-Nazi.
Hmm.
I mean it's a kind of a simplistic narrative, but on the other hand, American History X, I think, is a very powerful movie that has that undertone a little bit of very anti-authoritarian, open-minded upbringing, and then the kid turns out to be a fascist. But Bria, when did you open this museum, and tell us the journey a little bit? Like, what made you want to do this in Second Life?
That's an interesting journey. I originally intended to open this in 2016.
Hmm.
Um, and I
2016, by the
originally
way,
wanted.
which I learned today, sorry to step on you, by
Mhm.
Wikipedia, that also Black History Month is a thing in the Netherlands, Josie. You didn't know that.
I had no
Oh,
idea.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I looked that up
So,
today, it's Canada, UK, US, but
mhm.
started in Netherlands 2016. Yeah.
That
Huh?
is
News to me.
awesome.
Okay. Now we're not gonna step on you,
Um,
Bria. Tell us. And
I'm
everybody
used to
else,
it
please
now.
chime in and text, and I'll summarize it. I'll feed that in.
Yes. Well, originally I intended to open this in 2016, and I wanted to open it in Bay City actually because I absolutely love Bay City,
Oh, we do too.
and
Yeah.
consider, yeah, it's an amazing place. And unfortunately, I ran into an incident that scared me off of the idea, where the neighbor that I had basically blockaded the door and blocked the sign so you could not see the museum from the street, after I put
Wow.
up the sign saying Virtual Black History Museum. And, he claimed that it was not a racial thing. And,
Well, what
that's
did he
something that
say?
you
I
run
mean,
in.
what did he say that why did he do that?
Oh,
That's
he said
insane.
that he didn't see my building, and my building was big. Like, it definitely was visible. Um, and it just was a microaggression that really just put me off of the whole idea. And I do regret it, but in retrospect, I would have very quickly outgrown that space because this has turned into something bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Hmm.
I honestly wasn't even sure if anyone would come by because I don't know, if people are still interested in that type of thing. And the response that I got was great. But I digress.
Hmm. That's actually something that we're going to
Basically,
pick up later because, again, I mean, I told you off
yeah.
the air, and also please,
Mhm.
lady, chime in, or anybody. I was very enthusiastic. We did an amazing project in 2009 in Second Life about the history of lynching, and so
Mhm.
around that time was a lot of interest in nonprofits, and really using it virtual worlds for good, and then uh, I don't know. I haven't become a cynic. If I do, then please shoot me, Frau Jo Yardley. You have the.
I will. No problem.
I know. No, the point is,
She'll broadcast it too.
that's exactly. And then she'll charge people to tune in. Um, but it's some people would allege that all that stuff is gone from Second Life, and Second Life is just basically playground for, like, I don't know, shoppers
Perverts.
and
Mhm.
perverts. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, now I'm digressing, Bria. Sorry.
It's
Well,
what you do.
I had that experience, and I decided to write a blog post about it, and unfortunately, a lot of people picked up on it. I guess fortunately in a way, but I'm not used to people actually paying attention to anything that's going on in my SL. So it was definitely a new experience for me because I had, people contacting me from media outlets that wanted to do interviews, and eventually I did participate in that, somewhat infamous Atlantic article that Leslie Jameson did.
Right.
And it was that article that kind of helped push me in the direction of, revisiting this and rebuilding it and making it what, I hoped it would be. And I decided to move it here. And, it's it's been a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be because I originally, had the rebuild done around November 2017, and it's kind of evolved a bit, because my really good friend Broderick has been helping immensely with getting everything done as far as styling goes because I am terrible with that. So honestly, if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't look half as nice as it does.
This is a really
And,
nice modern building, and we should
oh,
probably go inside pretty soon to that you give us a tour. I don't want to
definitely.
interrupt you, but I want to now. You wrote a blog post. You had media interest. What
Mm-hmm.
are you with museums? The problem is when people go there. Are you here often? Do you have hours, or do you get a notice when somebody's here? How do you engage people who come here by accident, maybe looking up in Second Life search, and how do you
Hmm.
engage them beyond that to really get into a discussion?
Well, I definitely am here most of the time that I'm on a Second Life. I do very much enjoy this project, and I'm constantly working on something, and I do try to greet everybody that comes in. Um, and I've had people open discussions with me because they may agree or may disagree with something that they've seen, um, it's I have not had a bad discussion with someone yet. I've definitely had people that their perspectives were changed a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the, and I'll show you in a moment, but with the time, basically my intention is for people to be able to look at the historical part of it and get some perspective on how the history is very relevant to the current events.
Right.
Because, a lot of times you get that reception from people that say, oh, well, you know, that happened so many years ago and that's not relevant to now. It very much is because that was the foundation.
Well, it's
And,
also, I mean, that's I learned living in the U.S., for example. Also, when you really
mhm,
study it, that sort of the systemic racism is just a complete through line with
mhm,
policies, and it's just mind-boggling for me as an immigrant to the U.S. From Europe
mhm,
that you get this sugar-coated version. But the lady is pushing
mhm.
us. We should go inside. Let's go inside.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely. Okay.
and so follow Bria here.
Just
People on the
wondering.
podcast, we're walking into a nice modern building. It's a brighter grayish and
I love this building so much. It looks like a museum.
well, it is a museum.
I was very excited when I saw it, though.
I interrupted you
Um,
earlier by saying like one thing. It's terrible. But one more question on that because we did
yeah.
this virtual Guantanamo thing and or Noni did rather. I reported on it, and it was interesting to her that when people came, it didn't change any opinion. Like she met people there who were totally pro Guantanamo, and
Mhm.
she wanted to kind of get people sort of immersed in feeling that all their rights would be sort of stripped, and like how does that make them feel? And she kind of anticipated that it will
Mhm.
make people kind of aware that what we're doing may not be the best thing. But she said like, yeah, exactly, that's good, and we should do this, and all the terrorists should rot in their
Mhm.
cells, and blah blah blah. I mean, this is a very
Yeah.
different thing. But
I
you
was about
were
to say
just
I wouldn't even
yeah.
know how to convey that.
Yeah, you were alluding to the fact that you had in discussions, but it didn't change people. I guess that would the question would be what are you expecting?
Honestly, I don't expect everyone to have some life-altering experience. I I mean, this was just a passion project for me that happened to actually get people's attention. And I really just wanted to illustrate, the history, the current events, how they're very much linked, but also, shine a light on some of the talent within the community in Second Life and just,
Mm-hmm.
enable people the opportunity to have a safe place to have a discussion. I mean, I've had a lot of people have really good debates here, like healthy debates about
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed areas that they may not have had the greatest knowledge. Because in the United States, there's really not a strong proficiency when you look at people's knowledge of not just African American history, but even Native American history.
Oh yeah.
And that is such a huge part of American
Or any
history.
history.
You, yeah, and you can't talk about American history without talking about the racism behind it. But I didn't want this to just focus on racism. I wanted it to also be an opportunity to learn something new, but also, have a positive experience. And I'll show you in a moment, but the gallery that we have upstairs for
Mm-hmm.
Black History Month is really great. And it's brought on a lot of discussions because there was a lot of debate about some of the pieces. So,
That's awesome. Let's
um,
go step by step. Describe where we are. We're
yes,
in this room. We see different panels here.
this yeah, this area I felt was necessary to go with the historical side of it. I wanted to highlight some people that may not be spoken about so much in American history or Black history. I also wanted to have little known facts and talk about some of the current issues that we're facing, especially when it comes to the systemic racism and the whole prison system and what have you. It is still very much tied into everything else, and I'm hoping that people can organically connect those dots.
Hmm.
But I wanted to have a bit of that balance. Didn't want to just have it be about one thing. So this is more of the current events area and just kind of expanding on things that they don't really talk about when you study Black history.
Well, even when you study it, like, give me an example. What do they not talk about? Here we have some facts. I mean, what I did know was that interracial marriage was banned, but
Hmm. Yeah, it's my experience with Black history in my education. It was very watered down. They only talked about like the more mainstream things, like talking about Martin Luther King and his "I Have a Dream" speech and Rosa Parks and what have you. But yeah, see, I didn't know about Claudette until I
ah,
started doing some research myself. There was someone who did exactly what Rosa Parks did, but several months prior to when she did. She just didn't get the same recognition. Um, and it's been a process for me because most of the stuff that's in this museum, I did not learn in school.
hmm.
And
We're
I
talking about
purposely focused
Claudette
on those
Colvin. I'm
things.
just filling this in for people on the
Hmm.
audio only. 15-year-old
Yes.
Claudette Colvin did the same that Rosa Parks did, which was to refuse to give up her seat to a white person on a bus. Um, and she stood up to the bus driver that demanded she give up her seat when she was taking the bus home after school. She was 15 years old at the time. And Claudette Colvin uh, maintained she paid her fare and that it was her constitutional right, but she was later arrested by two police officers. This is quite amazing at the age of 15 to have
Hmm.
this stamina and also the fortitude to phrase it that way. I mean, I'm really, it's I have a 14-year-old who is wonderful, and I'm not gonna go into this whole, like, the kids today, the way they talk to each other, but sometimes they
I
do.
would.
Yeah, I know you would. Sometimes a little bit
Kids.
more decorum in interaction would clarify things.
Hmm.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, and you know what? If I had known about Claudette when I was a lot younger, I would have found her to be such a strong role model.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a bit of a shame that we don't know about some of these people just because we get the very watered down version. And I understand that Black history by itself is a very complex subject. Um, but I just wanted to
Yeah,
do
but that
my little
shouldn't be an
part to be able
excuse.
to. Oh no, definitely shouldn't be an
Mm-hmm.
excuse. And I'm just doing what I can to try to bring some of that out. If it only impacts one person, to me, that's completely worth it.
Mm-hmm. And please, also, lady, chime in text. Shyla is chiming in here, or anybody who wants to chime in with
Hmm.
voice, please do. Um, and also, Bria, I mean, again, for me as an old white guy with in a mixed racial marriage, really learning all this stuff that I was completely oblivious. I mean, oblivious about in my privilege, is has been a fascinating personal journey as well. I mean,
Hmm.
when you talk about like your education in school,
Hmm.
and
We
role
didn't really
models,
discuss a lot of
yeah.
this. Yeah. It's a bit of a shame because especially as someone um as an African American, it's hard for me to feel like it took me a long time to feel like I had my own identity.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to explain this to someone at one point because they said, "Oh, why do you focus so much on what happened in the past?" And I explained to them very simply, "Well, how far back can you trace your lineage?"
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Oh, we can trace it back, really far back." And I can't go past my great grandmother because I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about my background it's just, and that's a bit distressing in a sense that you should be able to um, have that connection. And we got that taken away. Like, even my last name is not really my last name, it's just one that we inherited.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit of a. I mean, it's something that's personal to me, and it's something that I definitely want to be more aware of. But you have to pay respect to the history before you can really understand what's going on now.
Oh, absolutely. But see, this is so
Hmm.
fascinating to me when you're saying that. That is such something that white folks don't even think about it if they're not
Hmm.
confronted by it. Like, what do you mean? Like, you don't know who passed this great grandmother or grandmother even, and uh, I was. Oh yeah, lady here in the chat says they did not teach Black history much in school. I will come back
Hmm.
here to really check things out. I don't know you shouldn't ask a lady for her age. I happen to know ladies' age, which I'm not going to disclose, but I venture to guess that Bria's maybe a little bit younger. I didn't go to school in the U.S. What did you
Hmm.
guys learn there? So you said that the watered down version. Also, did you learn already the that Martin Luther King was really kind of a real nice guy instead of a
I mean,
radical? And because, I mean, on Martin Luther King Day, the Department of Defense tweeted. I mean, this is really, I mean, this is the world we live in right now. The Department
I
of Defense
know.
tweeted, like, what are you doing to honor Martin Luther King? And I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh my goodness. No, we didn't learn anything negative. It's just we learned very little. It was like something that we covered in maybe a week in my school. We didn't really focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a shame because I think there's so much that, is being stifled in America or Black American history because they contributed so much to the foundation of this country.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you look at different inventors and, you know, things that you didn't realize were actually created by an African American. I mean, those are the types of things that I want to bring into here. So even though I have these four individuals on the wall over here talking about, what they did, that's going to be something that I'm going to be expanding on. So we are really getting to touch on a lot of different people and a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that I'm constantly trying to add on to in here. So there's definitely access to more information, but just in a more interactive fashion. So
Mm-hmm.
it's still a work in progress. It's been a it's been a big learning curve for me, but I do think it's important to kind of go against the lack of access to information and just kind of like put it out there so people can actually learn something new.
I mean, this is what is so wonderful about Second Life. I'm gonna ask you, Joe, what you think
Hmm.
about this. There's a bunch of comments here. The movie 13th was mentioned by Ava DuVernay. I haven't seen it. It came out
Oh,
recently.
the
Everybody's
Netflix
talking about it.
special.
Yep.
Oh,
Um,
that made me cry.
yeah.
That was a hard one to watch.
And also here, Skylar's talking about Hidden Figures. See, this is actually the time in the broadcast where I tell people that I don't watch movies, I just read books. So I haven't
I'm
seen
really bad
Hidden
at
Figures
reading
either.
Books.
books. I have not seen.
Okay, so we can't
Read
comment it.
books, Drax? Really?
Right, you didn't know that? So, Joe, let me ask you. I mean, what do you think? Um, we have this stuff in SL. We can go there, but my question is, do people go here? Do people want
Um,
to learn
mm,
about stuff? Do they want to go outside of their comfort zone, or do people? And I'm intentionally painting with a broad brush. When they go into Second Life, uh, do they want to go shopping and hang out with their crowd, and then that's it? So what is the
I
yeah? What is the
I
the
don't know.
opportunity here? Is there opportunity to build something that that creates a sense of space, a sense of presence, with more, yeah, a little bit more meat on the bone
Well,
than shopping.
I mean, I also work for I also work for real life museums. So we have this issue not just in virtual reality, although of
Right,
course the
nobody
barrier
goes
to
to
get
real
here is not
museums
low.
either. That's right.
Well, they do, but not the people you want to reach. I mean,
Yep.
I've worked for a Dutch resistance museum of World War II,
Hmm.
and they're not getting the people that they want to reach. They're getting the people who already know these things.
Yep.
Um,
Hmm.
they already know, and we are lucky now because with 1920s Berlin, there's just been this fantastic television series that everyone is talking about and everyone is watching it, and even people who are not interested in the subject are watching it because it's an exciting crime drama. But for instance, I've noticed
Ah,
that.
so if you put like everything in sort of like a Law and Order formula, then people might be interested. You're
Well,
saying?
it's a bit better than that. But
Oh,
of
I'm
course,
such a cynic.
if you get some sort of attention in real life, so around a subject, you'll get more people in Second Life to come and visit it, because sometimes people need to be kicked,
Yeah,
in the backside,
in the backside.
or
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
given a clue, or just given, if this is not on your mind, if this is not a subject that's part of your real life, it's not something that's, that you even think about much. How
Mhm.
would you
Mm-hmm.
even find this? How would you even look for this? I mean, we have this in 1920s, but we have quite a few bits of Black history as well
Mhm.
that people don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
it's quite painful, especially for Americans who are staying in 1920s Berlin, and there are quite a few of them. For instance, in 1928, Josephine Baker came to Berlin, and she was welcomed like a star. And she drove a cart with an ostrich over Unter den Linden, and she stayed in the most exclusive
Mhm.
hotel. And she was, there were crowds outside the hotel welcoming her to Berlin. But when she went back home, she wasn't even allowed to use the front door of a hotel.
Yep.
She had to go through the back door. And
Wow.
we have we have American people who come to Berlin because they like the 1920s,
And
they
they
like
don't know
the
this. This
German,
is amazing. Yeah. Mm.
and they are suddenly confronted with this part of history that links them to racism in their own country and
Mm.
in the 1920s in general. That they didn't go to learn, they didn't come to my sim to learn this or to find out about it, but
Mm.
there it is suddenly in their face as part of something completely different.
So it's
And
like my analogy is this, Joe. You go to McDonald's and you just want to get like a fish mac, but then there's like some steamed broccoli with nice sesame oil that is
Ugh.
no, so the
that sounds
nutritional aspect that you
disgusting.
kind of like you
You
put
don't want that.
no, it's actually you go to McDonald's, you want a Big Mac, and then there's like a book inside of it, and that you have to read.
Ugh. No, yeah, I think I went to a McDonald's with my little sister who's a vegetarian, and she let me taste her vegetarian burger, and it was better than the meat burger. So ever since I've been eating vegetarian burgers. Maybe that's better.
We're getting off a tangent, but you're
Yes,
making
sorry.
some super important point here, Joe, and that may be something also for, Bria.
Yeah. Sorry to
No, go ahead.
interrupt you. But is
Oh,
this
that's a
in the
great story.
destination guide?
Yes,
If
it
I may
is.
interject.
Excellent. That helps.
Wait, somebody
Because
wanted to
people are
interject.
following.
Mhm.
Yeah, people follow
Oh
the
yeah, I was
destination
gonna
guide
say.
without.
Hold on.
I was gonna say. I totally feel you guys on the whole like. How do you advertise a museum? How do you get people to come to a museum? Because
Yeah.
the people that do show up are the people that, are already have an interest in it. They're the people who know just about everything you're
Right,
putting up.
right.
And so
Mm-hmm.
to appeal to people who might not like, people who log into Second Life or people in real life that, they don't think twice about stuff like this. They don't really care about the history. They're trying to do their day-to-day thing.
But
And
Koyashi,
Right.
it's
what
really
could we
hard to
do?
pull people like that.
What would you do? Would you maybe we could put a billboard at the welcome area for the museum?
Uh, well, okay, so I'm a sim owner. I actually
Mm-hmm.
just started. I just started with my sim.
Oh, cool.
But
Mhm.
my thought would be that like whenever you want to get somebody involved in anything that's kind of outside of their comfort zone or outside of what they're used to, is to kind of and I don't want to say pander, but is to kind of like get to know the person or get to know the what's the word I'm looking for? Get to know your audience and like
Yes.
my sim is it's a rental area, it's a store, mall,
Mm-hmm.
it's residential. Um, but we have a club and we want to open up a sandbox and like we're trying to kind of be a jack of all trades and we're doing that so that we kind of figure out what our audience is. But I can't imagine how hard it would be if all that my sim was a sandbox, or all that my sim was a mall, or all it was is
Mm-hmm.
residential, because there would be so many people falling out of that group of like, oh, I don't I don't rent on SL or
Yeah,
I don't go to Sandbox.
that's a word for that, and it's called diversify, or something like
Yeah,
that.
Okay, guys,
exactly.
And that
Koyashi.
might be
Yeah.
that might be a good,
Yeah.
you know, Drax. You mentioned the shops, and you were a bit, naughty about
Hmm.
adding shops to a place like this, but that might actually be a great way to bring people here.
Yeah, yeah.
Bring them here
Exactly.
for something
Yeah,
else,
yeah,
and
no,
then
no, I'm
lure them
totally
into the
not opposed to it.
museum.
I just want to read some of this, Koyashi. Those are really excellent points. But on the other hand, of course, African American history or any type of history that doesn't like completely like, again like affect you, or you think like why there's so many other steps that have to be that should start very early on in the school system. And Joe, please slap me across the head because now I'm going to go on my soapbox talking about the failure of the school system to kind of even prime kids to
Oh
actually
yeah.
develop an interest in the first place. And that is where it all starts. Savannah
Yeah,
is
earlier I was gonna say they
yeah,
didn't teach me anything about Black history when I was in school. I'm 24, so this wasn't too long ago, but
damn.
yeah, we didn't get anything like that at all. I don't remember I remember we talked about Martin Luther King briefly, Martin Luther King Jr. briefly in school, and that maybe that was it. I think that was all. There might have been a mention of Rosa Parks. I don't
That's
even
crazy.
recall knowing anything about her. And it seems like as the generations go on, it seems like they know less and less about that stuff. Because I bet you could ask my little brother, who's 21 now, 2021, and he wouldn't even be able to tell you who Rosa Parks was or any of that stuff. And it's
No, I
like,
mean
you know,
yeah, it's unfortunate that yeah the history is written by the winners, and there are lots of forces
very
who
true.
who would like to taper over certain inconvenient things that happened. Oh yeah, the Indians, they were our friends, and all that kind of stuff. Savannah is asking, how is this museum promoted? You asked already, Joe. It's in the destination guide, which is excellent. What else do you
Mm-hmm.
do? And then we should go upstairs and look at some art. But Bria, so what else do you do to get the word out? You're blogging.
I am blogging. I do try to stay active on Twitter. That is my downfall. We do have a Facebook page as well. And again, we're trying to hold events here to try to draw some people in. Because one of the things that I started to touch on with you earlier is that where the support is coming from the museum, it's actually very diversified. And so there are people who don't fit into the community that are coming here to learn something, and I'm actually very encouraged by that because I honestly thought that that was going to be a big struggle for me.
Mm.
But we've had a heavy amount of people that have come here, and it's definitely been rewarding to be able to talk to a lot of them and share some perspective.
Do you get like outright hate stuff? I mean, Joe every once in a while gets some Nazi that she has to boot off her sim, but here you're on the mainland, so it's a little bit more complicated if that would occur.
Yeah, yeah, I haven't had as much of an issue with it. It's more when I'm off of the sim and then I run into people that go through my profile and say, "Oh, you're doing this," and I don't think that that's appropriate. Or I've had people that would say
Appropriate.
that, yeah, I've had people tell me that
That's
they
the
thought it was
most polite
inappropriate for me
troll
to.
I've ever heard of.
Yeah, that's a polite. That's the politest Nazi I've ever
I
seen.
I have
Yes, I
I
could.
have
We have.
people running through my sim shouting Heil Hitler and things like that and waving swastika flags. I would pay for
Probably
one
my
to come
friend
around
Luca.
and say, "I say, this is not appropriate."
I'll say
Wow.
I have to put you in the camp and
Gosh.
exterminate your kind, but nothing
Oh, as
personal.
long as you're polite about
Oh
it.
my goodness. Yes, it's a very polite
Oh,
passive
Shyla actually puts also
aggressiveness.
something in, and I heard that before. Actually, oh, what's your name? I don't see. Wait a minute. We have. Let me look up your name. Uh, oh, Los Angeles Graph says that in your mind, Second Life is racist and sad. Please elaborate on that. Shyla makes a
Well,
point that I also heard before. I had people tell me politics doesn't belong in Second Life. That's right,
Mhm.
Shyla. When you were wearing the "I'm a pre-existing condition" sign about your disability, that
Mhm.
that yeah, that's a good point. Mm.
well, I don't know if you noticed, I play Second Life quite often, and when I come across people that are African American,
Yeah,
especially in popular areas, people are socializing on voice. It seems like right when you know they're black, you'll get people that are white, and they'll just go right off the bat and start calling them the N-word.
it's true.
And personally, I
Mm-hmm.
think this is sad because I socialize with all types of cultures, and for them, it's like they're scared, not all the time, but like they don't want people to know that they're black because they're gonna know that they're gonna deal with this. So
Mm-hmm.
I try to like, I mean, I have a lot of black friends, and it's like it's sad for that, and I just wish I could make a change there, but it's difficult when you got people that are preconditioned to just think that this is
Yeah,
casually be racist.
absolutely.
And it's
Right,
the
And
same
right.
for Spanish people too, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, it's and that's yeah, that's definitely something that I can agree with. But again, I know that there are some people who say that we should keep politics out of Second Life, but you know what? Second Life is what we make of it, and
Exactly.
this is what I personally enjoy to do. And if there are people who can benefit from it, that's great. But I also know people who purposely make their avatars look nothing like them because they don't want to get that type of
Right.
attention.
So it would be
Um,
good just to
yeah,
try to like,
yeah.
it'd be good to just try to, I don't know, like just make it not cool to do that. And I know you can't force people's opinions,
oh,
but
Mm-hmm.
maybe I do this when I have friends that are like this. I pull them aside and I say, hey, this is my friend. That's not cool. Like
yeah,
to
you
be
have
dropping
to
it like
step
that.
in. I'll
Mm-hmm.
call you Los Angeles Graph because
You
that's
can
your
call me Graph, but
Graph.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, Graph making some really good points, and I really do have to say that we live in a day and age where I really truly believe, and again, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but we
Mm-hmm.
need to take a
Yeah.
stand, okay? So more than ever before, and in my lifetime, I gotta say, you gotta take a stand and you gotta step in and say that this is absolutely not okay. There is a normalization right now happening
Mm-hmm.
of certain behaviors that is just unbelievable. But
Or,
Graph,
Yep.
just punch them in the face.
yeah, but Graph, I was gonna say, like, I've heard that too, but I heard uh, people go nuts really only in the welcome areas, and it's really, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it just
Oh
attracts
yeah.
people who thrive on this stuff. So it's hard to say
Mm-hmm.
like that it's pervasive throughout Second Life.
Well, it's very common. I mean, I guess you're right. Depending, like, you're not gonna see that here because we're trying to do something productive. But like, I'll go to sandboxes and stuff, public areas, if you will, government land, and you'll see these. You'll see not gestures, but like you'll see like particle effects of these type of things, and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it still should be addressed. I think personally, I think it should be addressed because I see it and I don't like it.
Oh,
I don't
you
like to see
always have
people
to,
that.
voice that, and you really have to say, guys, you're effing jerks. I was
Yeah.
gonna say
Mm-hmm.
like because we went to VR chat a couple shows ago, and like,
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, it's like that there too.
VR chat is like another dimension. And again, I don't want to paint with a broad brush because they also had
But they're
some,
breaking that down. They're breaking that
yeah.
down. The moderators have actually made
Oh
it
yeah.
really really hard for people. There was a time where it was okay, and then one of the prominent members there had a heavy ban on them, and it kind of set the trend that hey, if you're gonna come out here and you're gonna be shooting that N-word off, you're gonna pay the consequences and possibly lose your account. So people are actually
Yep.
stopping with that.
I wanted to
My
ask,
biggest fear is that the people that get shot down there come here.
Well, you know
or
it'd
the
be
or
good
the
if
other
we
way
I've
have
already
around,
seen that a
or
little
the
bit.
or the other way around.
it,
They think like,
it could be a
Second
really
Right.
Life is lame. They want to do this. They want to do the harassment with the Oculus on. It's more fun.
yeah, it
Another
could
dimension of harassment. Oh my God! Now
right,
I'm like
exactly.
Oh
360
gosh.
harassment. I could only do
Oh
90
my God.
degrees before, but now look at me. Ooh.
Yes, now it's
You know,
much
you know,
more
Oh
Drax,
my
real.
goodness.
you are actually making trolling sound fun.
Ugh. A couple things, and please then let's go upstairs. I want to say Savannah said she selected an avatar of color to state who I am. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I was gonna ask Lady if she ever had a white avatar. I don't know. Lady is responding. I picked a white avatar when I joined SL because I wanted to not look like the only black avatar. but I changed it to a black avatar as soon as I got it. Also, I made my own face because I wanted it to look black, but not like the other black faces. I'm assuming, lady, you mean the other black faces that are um, either available on Marketplace or are derived from the standard texture, I guess. So, yeah. And Savannah was thrilled to be the only black avatar. Let's
That's
Bria,
cool.
take over. Let's go upstairs. This is so
Yes,
much
let's go
fun, guys.
running.
This is a really engaging discussion.
Yeah, not a troll
So
inside,
may I
by the
make
way.
a
Yeah.
suggestion?
Yes.
I know.
Oh, don't say
Carmen said
that. Don't say that. As soon as
Oh.
you say it, they could hear
Knock on
you.
wood, knock on wood.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, somebody
No. So
want to
what I
make a
was saying for the
suggestion?
suggestion,
Yes.
yeah, for the suggestion for advertising the museum here, I
Oh,
was
Scarlett.
thinking maybe have an interactive exhibit. In my state in Idaho, we had an exhibit on the Titanic where you grabbed a card of
Okay.
a passenger who was on the Titanic and you went through the exhibit learning about that character
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out that character's end. You know,
Mhm.
how they ended, if they got off the ship alive or what happened. I think you should try and do something like that with here.
Sort of
Mhm.
like
Story
interactive
where there's
loop.
a character from history where you get to go through their story interactively. And
That-
it might attract you.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome.
Oh, that's a great idea. And there's this guy. Oh God, the name escapes me. He did Virtual Harlem in Second Life, and then he moved to I think to OpenSim, and I don't know where he is now. And Joe is doing a lot of role play in 1920s Berlin. I mean, the possibilities are endless, but it costs
Absolutely.
money. You gotta get a
And
sim.
worse, costs time.
It took me forever just to get this far with it, so but it's something that I definitely don't want to have it go static. I know that happens quite a bit in Second Life, where people will create something and then not really try to do much with it. So I do want to avoid that, and I definitely want to bring more to the experience long term. So it's making it more interactive is very high on my agenda. Just had to get the foundation.
Yeah, and that's a
together
great
first.
foundation, Bria. It's amazing, and I would even say, some people may say that a static exhibit, or what they would call a static, is why do you do that in a 3D space where we can interact? Why do you put flat images on display? I mean, I think that's a ridiculous proposition, because we are here together, and we share the space, and we discuss the images together, and so that's
Right.
what makes it exciting. So what is this here now? We're in a gallery.
This area is the gallery area. We had 3 different artists, and I do have an exhibit as well on the other side. But on this side, we have 3 different artists that wanted to participate in the Black History Month event. I say event because I really honestly wasn't sure what else to call it, because we have a lot of different live performances and everything else going on throughout the month. And tomorrow we're actually having a meet and greet with the artists from this gallery, with live music and everything. But we had 3 people who wanted to participate and basically express what Black History Month meant to them, and definitely got some interesting results. And I really love the work that they put into it. It's tomorrow at 2 p.m. It's 2 to 4, so. And then, we have live singers that are going to be coming throughout the month as well.
I was just gonna say, when you listen to this on the podcast on Sunday, then the event that you're mentioning has already passed, but you're doing stuff the whole
Yes.
month, and
Yes,
I'm
we are
just
doing
looking
stuff
here at
the
a
whole month.
picture of a boat with a Martin Luther King Jr. quote. We may all have come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. So this is an image that was generated in Second Life, I am assuming.
Yeah, I was generating Second Life. And, it's the one thing that I love about the meet and greet is that everyone will be able to ask the artist directly what their interpretation was and what
Yeah.
their thought process was behind it. Because we've already had that happening. I had people right away, they said, well, not everybody who was an artist was white, or was black, rather. I'm well aware of that. It doesn't mean that I'm going to sit there and turn them away. They had something that they felt they wanted to contribute, and they went into it, and did some really interesting creative things. So
This is
it'll be
interesting
good to
here.
be
By
able-
this, there's an interracial family here. Wonderful pictures that you can't see on the radio. A little black child sleeping on the belly of a white mother here in Second Life, in the meadow here on a picnic blanket.
Yeah, I love the diversity of the photos themselves. I think that it's very cool. Um, and that's what I wanted. I wanted everyone to be able to have a different voice, and to be able to enable that discussion is definitely going to be something unique. Um, come Saturday,
Mm.
it's going to be a different experience for some people because they will be able to ask those questions, and it'll be okay to ask those questions. But I've had people contacting the artist directly, asking them, I just want to understand, what your perspective was, and having that healthy dialogue, and that's good.
Yeah.
I definitely encourage that, and that little bit of dialogue, even if only a few people do it, it does have a bigger impact overall. I want people to feel safe asking these questions. I want people to feel safe, talking about what they're not comfortable with, and what they don't
This
feel that
is
they know enough about.
this is the key to feel safe in a space where you can ask these
Mm-hmm.
questions that are you may really feel like you if you they bubble up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I actually heard an interview with a guy who was in a white supremacist movement when he was recruited when he was 14, and he got out,
Mm-hmm.
and he wrote a book about it, and it was a fascinating interview because he said people at that age, they're vulnerable, they're asking themselves questions, who am I? And people recruit them at that vulnerable age, and they drag them in there. And it's not that they're, all of a sudden they become white supremacists when they hit 14. Not at all. They're just
Mm-hmm.
searching, and then there is somebody who says, "Hey, come, we have fun, we have cool music and
Mm-hmm.
hangouts and stuff." And so when you, Bria, create space here for people, nobody of us is 14, I suppose. Maybe Shyla is. She's such a small gecko. I don't know how old
Oh.
are you, Shyla? How old do geckos get? Um, oh, she's 1,278 years old. Koyashi is
There you go.
14. Says the graph. Um, anyways, yeah, it's wonderful to create that space to have discussions. Um,
That was important to me because I know I've had so many people come up to me. They go through the museum and they open up a discussion with me, and I cannot tell you how many times at the end of the discussion, the other person will say, "Well, you weren't nearly as combative about it as I thought you would be."
mm-hmm.
It's not something for me to be combative about. I'm completely open to having a dialogue about it because I think it's important for people to be able to speak about these things and not feel like, I understand we're in a very PC age right now, but you can still have a discussion. There's definitely a respectful, mature way to have a discussion.
Well, since this is my
And,
show, and
mhm,
I because you mentioned PC, PC for me is a code word, frankly, of
mhm,
of the ruling class, to basically allege that they're being discriminated against because they can't be the a-holes that they always were. What do you mean I can't clap a nice woman on the booty anymore? What is happening here? You know. Um,
right. Yeah, it's just, I definitely think that it's important to be able to be more receptive because I don't know how we turned into this whole very closed off closed off world, and I'll just blame technology for that.
mm,
But
but that's good.
I'm
Yeah, that
I'm
always works.
But we are in technology. See, and I have to wrap it
yeah.
at the top of the hour. We have 7 minutes left, so that
Mhm.
we've come full circle. You're using technology to open up the silos, to engage and
Yeah.
and bring together a
Yes.
dialogue that arguably has been stifled by technology. So you're using technology
Mhm.
against technology, and
Hey, that's what I do. Very
Right.
similar.
I'm trying to bring it in a format where people can actually listen and learn. So if it's something that's relatable for them, that's great. But I definitely enjoy this project, and I know I'm in a long-term relationship with it. Might as well get cozy with it. But it's something that I'm very excited to be able to keep working on and
You can
bringing
hear
new
me?
things.
Savannah is now finally on voice. This is wonderful as we're closing off. So Savannah, you get the floor for the last 5 minutes or so. Please introduce yourself briefly, and then all the stuff that has been bottled up in you for this past 45 minutes you can let go.
Yes, greetings. I've enjoyed the discussion. My name is Sally Cherry, aka Savannah. I'm based in Baltimore. I was making the comment. I'm probably the oldest one in this group. I am 65 years old, and a lot of the history that we were discussing, I have experienced, and I am delighted to see your project here. And please add me to your mailing list. But one of the things
Definitely.
too, I have found that when I said I selected an avatar of color when I first came here, I've been here since 2008. There was very few avatars. Over the years, more avatars have come in of color and been developed of color. But the word of getting the information out. I call myself a chief silo buster.
Mm-hmm.
I like to use technology. I'm a geek. I like to use technology, social media. I do not. This is not a game for me. This is not playing for me. I work in here.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
do medical training in here, and I do social networking in here, and work with HIV/AIDS awareness in here.
But
And
how
so
do you
this is
bust the silos? How do you bust the silos? Because this is the thing, your enthusiasm. I have that same enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. How do you bust the silos that exist? Where we now know, Facebook's business model is based on actually creating silos because that's how they sell more advertisement. But here
that's
today we have this wonderful diverse group. Skylar just said he might be the youngest. He's 19. You're 65. We come from all different socioeconomic backgrounds. I mean, we're a little bit. We can afford high speed internet, so we're it's not super.
Ish. I'm on
Right.
3B,
Okay.
3MB.
Anyway,
one
Savannah, you're the silo buster. How do you bust them silos? How do you get people like cross that divide?
one of the things I call myself. I believe it or not, I was very shy when I was younger. I call myself an introvert. Yeah, I was an introvert caterpillar who became an extrovert butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I like reaching out to people, and I try to encourage people to reach out. I've found that a lot of times it's access. Working in public health, I'm a medical technologist by profession. I do medical training as such, but I have found that a lot of times it's information, resources. People just do not know how to access it, and because they don't know, they don't ask, or they go into their silos, and too often these folks in these very silos are not talking. So I try to make it a point of connecting people. I do network weaving, find out who's doing what and what's going on, and try to connect them to someone who can either help move their vision forward, or they can come together and collaborate on some projects.
Mm-hmm. So you go in actively and you identify people. So it's like it's one-on-one work. It's like when I went to the
One on one.
welcome area and I found a Trump supporter who was actually really out on his luck, and he was a perfect. He would have liked Bernie's message a lot, and I worked on him a little bit, and I knew if I had more time, I could convert him back from the from the dark side. But like you gotta like work on people. I don't have the time.
But the thing about it is, you not necessarily have the time in your passing. Like this morning, I took an Uber. I was talking to the young lady and come find out we had meet some same people.
Right.
And I asked what projects for the individual. She was a community outreach worker, what she was working on. So I told her, you need to talk to so and so over on the east side of Baltimore. So as you come across people, as you go about, just keep an
Yes.
eye and ear open on what they're doing, and just go through your Rolodex, your mental Rolodex of who in your Rolodex, who in your network can help that person, or they need to connect with that person. Because my feeling is, this is my vision, my mission. Everyone is given a mission. Everyone's given a job. It's not for me to know what that mission is, but if you're placed on my path, you were placed on my path for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
The reason may be just for me to connect you to someone in my network who may have funding, who may have personnel, who may have ideas, or who may just have a encouraging word for you. But
Mm-hmm.
I embrace it. I make the connection. I back out. A
You.
lot of times I use Facebook to make I am connections. If I come across two individuals who I think they need to talk, they're in separate silos. I do a I am introduction, make sure the conversation has gotten together. They're talking about working on something, and I take myself out of the conversation.
But I got to tell you honestly, those are very good points. But I got to tell you honestly, I'm really worried about, for example, the erosion of the public sphere. Because, for example, public schools is a place where you cross the divide, where you see people from other walks of life, and then you go like, wow, there is actually other people that have other problems, and maybe not everybody has what we have, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe they have more or less or whatever. And you mentioned the Uber driver. I mean, I visited Shyla in the physical world, and the cab driver Shyla drove me to Chicago airport. Was super interesting. His father came from Syria, and we talked about the story of refugees, and so these kind. But it, when you were talking, Savannah, it occurred to me like these crossings, we have to take advantage of them when they avail
Yes.
themselves, right? Because a lot of people don't do that for many, many different reasons. Sometimes we do want to be left alone. But I do encourage everyone who's listening to this or here in the room, whenever you have the opportunity to talk to someone who is not from your background, inquire, and open a door. That's what
People
life is
like
all
that
about.
don't live here.
No, Joe doesn't
Everyone
do that.
is from my background.
Yeah, exactly. She's in 1920s Berlin busting Nazis. That's what you do
Oh
all
yeah,
day.
that's true. No, I do
See,
it virtually because where I live, everyone's the same background,
Right. Holland is very,
except the
very
cows.
homogenic. Yeah. Yeah. You guys
Well,
keep
where
them
I
out.
live now. I mean, I lived in Amsterdam till last month. Now I live in paradise.
Ah, yeah. Amsterdam is ruled by Australian tourists who are totally stoned. I heard. I don't know.
British as well. British as well. Don't be racist. It's the British as well.
Okay, guys, we have to wrap the show. This was totally awesome, and please, everybody, come back. We try to do this every other week on Friday at 10
this
a.m.
is awesome.
It's and Savannah has to come back because now she was muted for 50 minutes, and
I have so much more to say too.
oh, I believe it. Oh, you'll come back.
Oh,
Oh,
I
for
can
sure.
imagine.
And Bria, wonderful, and you have events, and we'll post the slurl, and I hope a lot of people show up. I'm really happy that Luca has brought all his friends.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Lady came. Shyla is here, and Bria. Actually, you can buy these paintings here, these pictures, and you can also support the museum. So drop
Oh
some
yes.
shekels, drop some linden shekels into the box downstairs, so that and the bikers who are touring the mainland, maybe they drop by. I don't know. Every time I see the seriously, when I see the mainland, I was like, I gotta hop on a bike and just go on the mainland for 10 days.
I like those pods.
Yeah.
I'm a pod rider.
Bria, you have the last word. What do you wish for 2018 and Second Life and real life?
Forward momentum and progress. We're definitely in an awkward time, especially in the U.S. But I definitely want to be part of the positivity. So that's my main goal for this year.
Wonderful. Wonderfully said, folks.
Awesome.
Take that and use what you have. Everybody has been dealt a different deck of cards, but we can always choose how do we use those the cards, the deck.
I use them for
Absolutely.
playing poker.
How to play your cards.
Play. Right.
I love poker.
Wait, who said play? Somebody earlier said play in the context of Second Life. I mean, that's
Oh
treason.
no, let's not play.
Second Life is not a game. It isn't.
Yeah. I love when
Can
people
be.
try to say it is. I'm like, if Second Life's a game, how do you win?
Hey, if you want to make second
No,
life a
but
game,
Graf
it's
said
game.
that. But Graf,
It's
you know,
not the
I
most offensive thing to say in Second Life.
no, but this is so funny because I'm cut the I'll cut the stream. I'll cut this on the podcast. But it's so funny because in the movie, let me just type this in here so people can. Or
Yeah, but
Shyla,
real life is a game.
Shyla, can you put
True.
the here's our documentary that we're working on, and the funny thing is one of the researchers gets very mad when people say that Second Life is a game because he says the Rose Bowl in Pasadena is not a game.
The what?
That's business.
It's I can't even type anymore. Here we go.
It's
You know,
advertising. It's revenue.
No, 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 no. The point is that Second Life is a place where you can play games, but it itself is not a game.
A
So
game.
Right.
a soccer stadium. This is a better analogy. A soccer stadium is
What's
not a
football?
game. Football, yeah,
What's
whatever it's
football?
called.
Now you
Who
know.
cares? You Europeans always have different names for stuff. What's wrong with you?
No,
I
no,
got.
the Americans always have
I'm.
different names
I'm
for
gonna
stuff.
cut the stream, folks. On the stream, thank you so much for watching. And this is coming on the draxfiles.com on the podcast, and with the slurl is all in here. So come check out the museum and see you guys next Friday. Bye. And I'm stopping this.